Next, we have a couple of real veterans in emergency preparedness. This is the Harlem Emergency Network, led by Mr. Wali Abdun Noor and Bob Ponce. Wali is one of the godfathers of our whole emergency preparedness effort here at WHCR. He was the one that first introduced our team to mobile radio operations procedures. I'm sure he's going to talk about that. So please welcome Bob Ponce and Wali Abdun Noor.
All right, everybody. First of all, how's everybody doing? How did you enjoy the lunch? Courtesy of Harlem Emergency Network. Second, it's great to be here for, is this the 9th or the 10th?
The ninth.
Okay, so we skipped 2.
Years with the pandemic.
Was it 3 years or 2?
20, 21, 22.
Okay, all right. So we're on 9. Next year is 10. Hopefully we make it to 10. So at that first one, Stu was there, Wally was there, of course, Angela and Tina. There's a few faces. Cert was there. And of course, Carol Johnson was one of our featured speakers at the first one. So we had an eye for talent way back when. And that's our partner in crime. Carol and I, during the COVID, we did regular weekly broadcasts for about a year and a half every Wednesday morning, just giving people updates. And people may or may not know it, but Carol is personally responsible for the distribution of tens of thousands of PPE, masks, gloves, sanitizer. So I just say that to say, let's give a hand for the people who have been working on your behalf for years and still are doing it. Now, Carol came up here before and said, we're not here to scare you, we're here to prepare you. Well, that's not exactly true. I'm here to scare you, because current situations are at an all-time high. If you haven't noticed, if you get nervous every time you turn on the news, well, it's not just you. So as you know, we have things developing in the Middle East. We may have U.S. troops on the ground in the Middle East soon. And that creates an escalation. And if you think it doesn't affect us here in New York, then you haven't figured out what being in New York means. Because as much as I love this city, and we have so many benefits here, the benefits of community. And if you think about all the resources, whether it be from CERT, Harlem Hospital, NISM, the Red Cross, all these organizations and community organizations, Connect telling you about mental health. These are benefits you get from living in a very community-oriented city. But in an event of a really horrific event, a lot of these services and access that you have go by the wayside quickly. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, making sure you have the right mindset, because if you don't have the mindset, you're not going to make it through a tough event. And so, being here, we went through 9/11, that was a big event. We went through the pandemic, was a big event. We've had these storms that were big events. So something big is likely to come, and it hits New York harder than other places. So and what are we looking at? We're going into an election season. The threat of racial violence, civil war, these are things that have been unthinkable, but you need to start thinking about them now, because that's the era we are in. And you all have taken the first step by being here, but you got to keep stepping, because for every one of you that's in here, there's 10 of you who didn't make it here today. And if they're 10 of you, if they're your family, your friends, your church members, part of your organization, if they're part of where you live, you need to start getting people into the mindset of preparation. Now, I won't go through too much of it because I'm following Carol Johnson, and she gave you a lot of it. But I would want to underscore the 7 survival priorities we've been talking about for years, which is food, water, shelter, health and medicine, power, communications, and the last one that no one talks about is sanitation. So food and water, these are the basics. Do you have enough food to stay in your house for a measured amount of time. Again, as you said, or put it in your go bag. You can't put the macaroni and cheese box in your go bag. And you need to have food that doesn't require refrigeration, or you may not have a way to cook it. So you have to think about those things, but you have to prepare for it in advance. You have to start getting into habits of building your capacity in all these areas. Water. Do you have a water filter? These are things that not only affect your short-term existence, but also your long-term existence. Because if you don't know the quality of your water, it's best that you start paying attention to it. And if you try and buying water, first of all, you'll go broke buying those Poland Spring bottles. And second of all, there's no guarantee that they actually are giving you the highest quality of water. We talk about your shelter. And so that was the sheltering in place. Do you have everything in your house to stay in your house in a measured period of time? And do you have another location to go to if you get stuck out of your house? So you got to think about these things in advance. All the resources are here to make plans. If you walk out of here today and you don't start making a plan, and if you don't do your go bag, don't come back to us crying next year because, and you might need the go bag before next year. So please don't waste time and go into that mindset of what I need to do to be prepared. And the fourth one I mentioned was health. So what do you need to do to provide for your own health? And Carol went into this, but you need to think about it for yourself. Do you have medicine? Do you have glasses? Do you have special equipment? Do you have enough to sustain you if you get cut off? You turn on TV ads. Oh, we do capsule. We deliver to your house. Well, they're not delivering to your house during an emergency. So, you think about all these things. Now, power we talk about because when you talk about extreme events, what happens if there's a blackout? How does that affect you immediately? How does it affect you short-term, mid-term? If you're not asking these questions, you're going to be surprised when one of these things actually happens. Communications has been the lifeblood of HEN. We founded this organization around the idea of having communications. And I'm going to turn it over to Wali and Anesta and Raheem in a second, and they're going to get into details about what we've been doing with radio communications. The last one I want to talk to you about, which virtually nobody talks about in extreme emergencies, is sanitation. But all I want to do is remind you of New Orleans after Katrina, the Superdome. And what killed more people in the Superdome was sanitation, because they didn't think about those things and they were in a confined situation, and the human excrement starts piling up. It creates a health hazard. So, you need to think about those things as a microcosm. If you are stuck in your home or apartment and you're there for a measured amount of time, do you have enough water? What happens if your water gets cut off and you can no longer flush your toilets? What's your plan? So I'm not here to give you the questions. I'm here to get you to start thinking in this direction, because survival is about the right mindset. And right now, all of the information we're getting is that we need to all step it up a level. I'll say one last thing. So our first emergency preparedness day back in 2013, we had a guest on, Aton Edwards. Some of you know him. Anybody? Raise your hands if you know who he is. We have a few people who do know who he is. So he is one of the foremost disaster and survival experts in the country. He, in February of 2001, was on, I guess it's Kiss's Open Line, and he talked about a possible event at the World Trade Center. He correctly predicted it would most likely happen in September. He correctly predicted it was likely to be by a plane. He correctly predicted what time in the morning it would be likely to happen. He sat down in 2018, I believe. Mark was there, I was there, Carol was there, Wali was there. And at that time, we're in the middle of Trump's term, and we thought our biggest threat was probably, civil violence caused by all this turmoil in the Trump administration. And he told us, no, the biggest threat right now is a pandemic. 2018, 18 months before it hits. So, we're here now, and I've been in communication with him lately, and he is at a very high threat level. And one of the things that he tracks is you have, there's a book called Survival of the Richest, and it's all about, by an author called Douglas Rushkoff, and it's about the billionaires and how they plan for their own emergency preparedness. And when you have billions, you can spend billions, and you can buy up enough stuff that you can sit somewhere for years and have enough food, water, whatever. So those people have been escalating their they don't have safe rooms, they have safe bunkers. Some of them have islands, and they have been upscaling their activity recently. So that's like when you go in the forest and you have all the birds and things tweeting, and all of a sudden it's quiet here in the forest. I don't hear the crickets. I don't hear the birds. It's because they know it's time to get out of here. So I'm just telling you, the crickets stop chirping and the birds stop singing, and that means we have to be on high alert. And I'll leave it at that. There's also, Hen, we have a sign-in sheet at the back table. If you want to say more information about it, please make sure you sign and put your email address and/or phone text number.
Bob, before you go, what did Anton say was the new emergency?
When we're done with this portion, we'll talk to you later. Sign the sheet. Thank you, Wali.
All right. Pay attention to what he's saying. My name is Wali Abdun. I won't even say I was in the beginning, because the beginning started there and back there. The CERT team, back in 2005, we were actually started HEN and WEBT in this room. And it all started because of Sandy and because I was in the CERT program, and this is how we got started. I want to, could you just quickly go through some communications information? Could you go to the next slide? Okay, so what we want to talk about is, what do we want to talk about? What is emergency communications? It's not just communications. Why do we need it? What are the different types of communications? New York North Emergency Network, the Integrated Public and Alert and Warning System, HAM. Nessa's going to talk about HAM radio. And one thing that very few people talk about is how do you communicate when there is no electricity. So we're going to try and get through this awfully quick. Could you go to the next slide, please?
Also, please hold your questions until the end of the presentation.
What is emergency communications? In an emergency or disaster, when normal modes of communications are inadequate or non-existent. In other words, you pick up your phone, you go to dial 911, and you can't get through. Or you pick up your phone, you go to 911, and there's not even a dial tone. What do you do then? Another thing for emergency communications is, sure, your phone is working, and the difference between normal communications and emergency communications is that when communications that needs accurate and vital information, for the responders to get to you, and for those that are being affected by whatever the problem is. Okay? Why do we need it? In an emergency or disaster without communications, there is no response. None whatsoever. No help coming. If you put your hand on a hot stove and there's no communication between your hand and your hand's going to burn up. You got to have communications. To ensure that, another reason is to ensure that the correct and adequate materials and personnel come to where the incident is. You don't want a doctor to come when you needed a plumber, or vice versa. Or you might have a lot of people coming to an event and you don't need them all. So you can communicate and tell some people that we have enough people here, or we need more people. Okay, can I get the next? So that's what emergency communications is. There's different kinds of platforms. When I say platforms, different kinds of devices and ways that you can communicate. Of course, you have your normal from 1 to about 4. I'm pretty sure everybody knows them: cell phone, text, broadcast, cable TV, internet, all of that. Okay, getting from 5 through 7, you have like mesh networks. That's normally in your house. If you have internet, you have like one router that sends the signal out throughout the whole house. Mesh network means that every device that's there is sending out the signal. It's receiving and it's sending out, so that if one goes down, you can pick it up from the next one. Interoperable ability is between two it's between different types of communication systems. So cable TV is different from AM radio, but if one can talk to the other, or if one can bridge across to the other, that's interoperability. That is one of the things that is definitely needed. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people got killed in 9/11, because they were telling them get out, but their radio was on a different channel and people didn't get the message. And you have two-way radio that was mentioned earlier. And you have the old two-way radio, which are analog. Now you have digital radios. You have those radios can now do video, radio teletype, point to point. You can use a repeater. Point to point is short distance, like from here maybe to 145th Street. Repeater is from here down to the Brooklyn Bridge. High frequencies, you can talk around the world, and on the bottom, there's satellite. Okay, Raheem is going to take it from here. He's going to talk about 9N. What's 9N?
Peace, y'all. How's it going? Peace. Start you off. What is 9N? That is New York North Emergency Network. Do I have to? I'll take the mask off. I don't like taking the mask off. This is why we're here, because we need to know we're in a pandemic. You gotta keep it on. Stay scared, stay prepared. New York North Emergency Network mission is a growing communication hub made up of community-based organizations, houses of worship, local businesses, block associations, governmental and non-governmental agencies for the purpose of matching vital resources with the needs of the community during a major emergency or disasters. Basically, what that means is, all you all here can be part of this. Just get your knowledge, get your communication. We're going to get into that in a second. 9N goal is to utilize most the various communication platforms mentioned in the previous slide. 9N also provides emergency communication training for its participants, so please sign up. It is vital. 9N is also managed by a unified command structure made up of different participants. We also operate on levels. Level 1, the network is offline or off the air. There's no traffic. Level 2 is for maintenance, training, testing, drills. In other words, we do every week a radio check just to make sure that our devices are working, just to make sure that your device is even on. So if you remember it's Monday, you're not hearing something, something's wrong. Fact of life. Level 3, voluntary monitoring of the 9N channel. That means there is no NCO, which is a network control operator. Thank you, Mom. That basically means that all units are monitoring. There might be traffic, but not necessarily. Level 4 is a schedule activated for an incident or an event, such as, let's say, a marathon or a bike tour. We'll get together, we're bringing in all our equipment, we have people out in the field, and we're all communicating back and forth to each other, letting each other know what's going on out in the field. With that, you're gonna need a network control officer and a network duty officer. I got that right? All right. And level 5, the top one, which is emergency activation, which means things like Hurricane Sandy coming down on you, hey, quick. We are activated, could be 24/7. It could be for months, depending on how long the incident or event lasts. And until we have a recovery situation in process. Next one up. So this is how we operate. Can you just pull it up a little bit?
I tried before. Oh, yeah, here we go.
All right, I just need it down a little bit more. All right, so this is how we operate, starting with FEMA and what's called integrated. Hold on a second, I lost my notes. I have my notes. Integrated public. I know I had it. Pardon me, y'all. Alert and warning systems. I always mess that up. Followed by New York State Emergency Management, followed by New York City Emergency Management, which has a situation room, a EOC, and a watch command, which brings us down to either 911, Citywide Disaster Services 1, or New York City CERT. And at the bottom is all the networks that helps bring all this information up to the top, which is WHCR Emergency Broadcast Team, Harlem Emergency Network, that's right, South Bronx Emergency Network, New York North Emergency Network, which is all of us, including Manhattan North Emergency Network and East Harlem COAD. Let's talk about the integrated public alert, okay, and warning system. So starting from the left, it starts here where you'll start from local, go to state, territorial, tribal, federal. If any of these areas has a problem, instead of spreading it all over, it goes through an IPAWS portal, which puts it exactly in the region it needs to be. So if you have a problem in New York, there's no reason why people in New Mexico need to know about it. Along with that, it also moves over here to the emergency alert systems, your commercial mobile alert systems, or wireless emergency alert systems. I'm pretty sure you've gotten those when you got Ambers and things of that nature. Internet services, NOAA, which is the weather services, and state, local, and unique alerting systems. So whatever your local capacities might have in place. And all of this gets pushed to you at large, the American people, through AM, FM, satellite radio, digital analog cable and satellite TV, EAS, emergency alert systems, y'all are familiar with that, We also have a wireless emergency alerts capability on your phone. Web browsers, widgets, websites, and social media might also broadcast these, as well as NOAA. Now, if you see this radio, I need you all to pay attention to this radio because it was brought up that your power might go down. These are solar powered. You want to keep these by your window, so if anything goes down, you can still have a way to communicate. They also have battery packs that are solar powered. You want to get those as well. So when you don't have no power, plug in, you're back on. Where was I? As well as future technology, which is again FM bands, ETNs, sirens, and digital signage.
Okay. The last thing that we want to talk about at this time, and then Anesta will quickly go over ham radio. We talked about the network going down. What do? Okay. The first easiest way is to keep a whistle with you. You don't want to be shouting and screaming because you're already just like me now, can't talk. You're already nervous and everything, and so you need to have a whistle. There's another way, of course, this is that flag semaphore way is you have to be very well trained with that. But that's when people, I don't know if you ever used to see people in the Army do like this and do like that. That's what that is. You gotta have a flashlight. Something that everyone here should know, that if you have a phone and you got a flashlight on that phone, know how to use it. If you ride the subway, say somebody's down on the track, you see a train coming, you need to know how to stop that train. And you can stop the train just by doing like this. And the motorman knows to stop the train. And part of our team stop the train from running over a person, so it works. Okay? If you're someplace trapped and there's some metal that you can tap on that metal. Another thing, if your organization or something has a megaphone, people think that's passé. That's old school. Get your megaphone out. All right? An echo chamber is a place that your voice may echo. So if you're any place where your voice echoes, know where that place is. Okay? Upside down flag. The upside down American flag is a emergency signal. And the last thing is a triangle. A triangle or three. If you have a whistle, you blow it 3 times. Anything 3. Triangle is a emergency signal. And a white sheet hanging out of the window, fire department knows exactly what that means. It means that you up there, you're trapped up there, and they come and get you. So those are some of the things that you could do if there's no electricity. All right, Anesta, quickly.
I heard you.
You,
I'm coming. I'm coming.
3.
Okay.
That's part of what I was
Stu,
saying.
put that on slideshow, please.
Anything that you can do that goes 3 times. It's say if you're banging on a wall, go bang, bang, bang. Anything that you can use to send the signal 3 times, people know that that's an emergency. Okay, we got to go.
Good afternoon. Okay, one of the things that was on Wale's slideshow was Morse code. Is this working? Can you guys hear me? Okay. Morse code is very, very important. It's an old-fashioned way, but Morse code will get out when radios don't get out, when definitely phones and internet and the rest of that doesn't get out. Morse code will get out. Why he had the words Morse code next to will you blow the whistle? What is it? 3 long, 1 short, 3 long? I can't remember. To blow like that, anybody in communications, anybody in emergency management, any policeman, any fireman, anybody who's in the Army will know that that's Morse code and know that you have a problem. So that's what that was on there. Okay. What is amateur radio? Amateur radio is a recognized national asset, providing trained operators. That's all of you. You're just going to be trained. Technical specialists, that's all of you. And disaster response communications in the time of need. Ham is another word for an amateur radio operator. Just keep going. That's one of radios. Anyone could become a ham. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter if you're disabled. Go ahead. That's another radio. In order to keep business and municipalities from taking advantage of ham radio operators, we are called amateur radios. Amateurs do not get paid. So you do not get paid in amateur radio. That's another radio. One of ham's most enjoyable aspects is that we are all called by our first name. There's no hierarchy. People help you. They don't expect any payment. Whether you're a famous person, there's many astronauts who are ham radio operators. We're all known by our first name, whether you're a little kid or a big CEO. That's another radio. All those radios are back there. Hams talk all the time. We literally talk all the time. Go ahead. But we do digital codes because now we can do hams using a radio and a computer. We can send information from the computer over radio waves, not necessarily having to use the internet. That's another one of my radios that are back there. Hams provide public service. We do public service during parades, during sporting events, during marches, but especially during bad weather. We communicate that information. We pass it again, either through the radio or through the computer to government officials. Now is the best time to get active and to get on ham radio. Anybody who has any questions, I'm back there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.